Welcome to Watch Out Power BI. Here's Google Charts. Hey, my name is Eric, and the idea for this video came from one of my viewers, Carl, who wrote in that he has been using a lot of the tricks from the channel to create several very cool looking add-in controls, but he really wanted to use Google Charts to do simple graph instead of having to go through the whole process of using Power BI. And for whatever reason, he could not get the Google Charts to work, so he asked, hey, maybe this is a good idea to look into, and well, that's what we're doing now. And since you're watching this video, then my guess is that this will work. Or maybe this is one of those videos where I document my failures. Okay, so let's take a look at Google Chart, what it actually is. Here is on Google's developer side. And I chose the pie chart because pie. And well, that's a nice chart. And here's the code that produces this. So we have basically just one HTML page. We have one script, external script from gstatic.com. And then there's just a script that does some loading. Defines a function that actually draws the chart and set on charts.setOnLoad callback will call this function. So that's pretty straightforward, and in the body there's just a div. So let's see if we can get this to work with Business Central. Here is my Visual Studio Code. I just created before the video started a quick empty project where we have a page where we really want to insert this. And so when we're going to create a control add-in, so let's actually just step back for a second. So when we have a Business Central, we have a Business Central. I think it's called BC18. Let me see hang on, Eric. This is my Business Central. And I need to log in. So the way a control add-in works is basically that you assign a piece of the screen, and we can now just pretend that any of these could be a control add-in. It doesn't really matter which one, but we assign a specific part of the screen to be in reality an iframe, so a page inside a page. And whatever happens in that stays in that unless you escape out of that. There's a video on that. Subscribe to the channel, then keep an eye on what happens. So we want to put the Google chart in one of these control add-ins. So it basically sits in its own page, which is perfect because in that page there's basically one div waiting for us, and that's exactly what we need. So let's start by creating a folder here. So always good idea to keep the control add-in in its folder. So we're going to call it charts. And the first file a control add-in need is the control add-in. So let's just call it add-in.al. And this is a control add-in. Control add-in is an object type without a number, so we're going to just call this one Google Charts. And a control add-in needs a couple of things. First of all, it needs what is known as a startup script. So I'll just save this for a second, and then let's go over to the folder and we'll create a new file. And we'll call it startup. And this one sits inside the charts folder, which is a very important important thing to know. So when we go here and say, okay, we need to specify the name of the startup script, it's actually relative to .js. So we need to tell that it's located inside this folder. That is very important. So if I change the folder name, I need to change the path here. If I move it into another folder, I need to make sure that the path here is correct. And it's a relative path from the beginning of your project, so from the root of your project. So if you create, like, it's often a good idea to create a base folder, src for source or something like that, then charts will sit inside that one, and that will be relative to the root of your project. Anyway, this works. And then we need to load something. We need to load scripts, and we do that from one called scripts. And we probably need to add stuff ourselves. So let's add our own file called script.js. And we'll just keep that empty for now. So we know that that's charts, and then it's called script.js. And this is the bare minimum. Now we have a control add-in. But remember, let's go back to Google for a second here, and we can see that we need this guy. And notice that this is called loader.js. So this is actually, so there's a command here saying google.charts.load. So we're actually just referring to the loader, and then that one will load other JavaScript packages as needed. Anyway, so we need to add this one. And since we're working with a dynamic loader, the idea of, if you watch some of the other videos, but what I usually do is that I get the entire JavaScript stack that's needed and put that inside the AL project, so everything loads locally. I prefer that, but in this case we cannot do that. But it's not really an issue, because we can just add that one as a script with the full path here, full URI. And then let's do some quick do horizontal stretch through and vertical stretch through, so we take up all the space there is. So the control add-in will act like a gas and use all the available space. So that's pretty much our control add-in. So let's try to run this, see what happens. So I'm publishing, it's being published successfully. And there's nothing here, which kind of is what we aimed for. But what I wanted to test out is that I really want to welcome. I don't want to have a welcome. I want to check out network here. And the only way I can do that is to refresh the page over here. So what I'm after is I want to figure out if, and now I forgot the name. So I want to check if the loader.js got loaded. Depending on, not yet, actually. Doesn't look like it's loaded yet, but we're not really doing anything, so that might be the issue. So let's keep on going and see. Actually, I want to check one more thing. Just make sure that the console didn't tell us that we have an error, and we don't. So this is good. Okay, let's carry on and see if this might be Carl's problem, and I think this case we're dead in the water, but I have faith. What I usually do when working with control add-in, and this is kind of the pattern that that Microsoft uses also anywhere, is that the control add-in is delayed getting ready, so you cannot use it from the AL side before it's ready. And the way we tell that it's ready is simply to call this guy, Microsoft.dynamics.nav.invoke extensibility method, and we usually call it control ready. So this is actually an event. So we need to go back to the control add-in and create an event called control ready. There we are. And now I can go to my test page, and we didn't add it to the page, so that's why we never saw it loading. So that was not Carl's problem, hopefully, otherwise. So I will add it, and this is the weird thing, that we create a control add-in and then it has to be inserted on the page as a user control. Go figure. Anyway, we have it here, the Google chart. I'll say application area equals all. So now let's actually see if it loads. That was a rookie mistake. You can drink to that one if you want to, or not. Let's try this again. I will open up so no errors on the console, and we will reload the page. Let's see. There it is. Can you see it at the very bottom? So this one, 200. So we're loading successfully from Google. That is perfect. Okay. So let's see. Now we can, because when you're adding an event, so when you're adding an event to control add-in, that event will show up as a trigger here. So now we can do stuff here, and let's figure out what we want to do. Let's go back to that Google page for a second. There's just a bunch of code here, so let's just grab all this. There we go. And let's go back to the control add-in and create a procedure called run some code. So this is a procedure, meaning that's something we can call, but the procedure has to be implemented, and we do that in the script. So now we'll do a function run some code, and let's just very naively just copy all this stuff in and see how it goes. So what we need to do in order to test this is that on the test function here, so on control ready, we're gonna do curpage.chart.run some code, because this is a procedure, so it will show up on the. So let's actually, so you see, I called current page, and current page dot the control names, in this case this one, gives you whatever functions are available on that control on the screen. So some of the built-in controls can do a lot of stuff, and a control add-in can only do what you add to it. Anyway, let's deploy and check this out again. Deploy it, here we go. And we got nothing. Let's check the log here. Not that one. Uncaught in promise container, not in. So clearly container is not in, and I think I know what that is, because you know what, most programming errors comes from copy paste, and we did a big copy paste here. So right here at the end, if you remember the page on Google Well, use here it is. Use the element called pie chart, because that was the div we have down here. But we don't have a div called pie chart. So we do have a div called control at in. That's the div that sits inside the iframe. And this is where we want to put our stuff. So let's try third time. This is exciting. Do we get a graph, or do we get boom? Excellent, my daily activities. And we can see that the mouse over, so the control works the exact way we would like it to work. Okay, so that's a video right there, but let's actually, so now we're just running Google's test JavaScript without really considering what it is. So maybe we need to look at what we're doing here. So we're actually defining a function inside a function, which is fine. We have a data set, we have an option set, and we have a chart, and the chart gets called with chart.draw, and it pass the data and the options. So how about we try to, so this is JSON, right? So how about we feed in some true data? So let's go back to our page here, and maybe we will create a customer. Let's go back to BC for a second, just to select something that makes sense. Let's see what I have in this database from customer. If I have, you never know with these. Oh, that's the 5 usual suspects. So we can do, you know what, let's do sales LCY. That's a good number. So let's add in we have to look at that data structure again. My memory is apparently failing me. So we need an array with arrays in it. And in the first entry is the title, and then it's an amount. So let's see if we can get that to work. So we need a let's call it JSON array here. That's a JSON array. So if customer find set, find set, then repeat until customer dot next equals 0, meaning that we cannot move to the out of the set of customers we got. And when we have a customer, we can also do customer dot auto set auto calc fields, and we'll do sales.lcy, so that's calculated. So JSON array dot add, and the first thing we need to add is the customer name, and JSON add, and then we need to add the customer dot sales LCY. So, and that needs to be added to a bigger JSON array. So let's call that data JSON array. So data dot add JSON A. But before that, we actually need to add the header. So let's do and this is a bad pattern. this should be extracted to its own function. So what I need to do here is, of course, that I need to actually clear JSON array at the beginning of each loop, otherwise it'll just make a longer array. But let's do JSON array add customer and JSON array add sales. I think, yeah, that should be fine. So we'll do data add JSON array, and let's just check this out, how this looks. So if we do message, wow, %1 format data. Let's see how this actually looks. I'll deploy. That looks pretty accurate. Header and the customer, so I think that's okay. So what we really wanted to do was, do it like this. So we would tell that run some code has a parameter, and that parameter is JSON array. And let's see what happens if we do. Can we compile this? We can. Let's go in here and then run some code. Data. Oh, we already got data. We call it JSON. And then just let's do an alert and see what JSON is. Oh no, actually let's do something like console log JSON instead. Run this. Let's see what happens. What we get. I have a suspicion that Business Central is just gonna be mad at us. Maybe not. No, look at this. So I actually did not know that I could pass a JSON array object and it will get translated correctly. That's, hey, cool, Microsoft. I didn't know that. That was nice. Okay, so this makes it a bit easier. So now we have the data here. So let's go back to Business Central. And then instead of this guy, we're simply going to do this guy. And let's change this to customer sales. Try it again. Ta-da! So here are customer sales as a pie chart. That's actually pretty cool. I can certainly see a lot of usage for not just the pie. I do like the pie chart, but look at all the charts that are actually in here. So that is pretty cool. Anyway, guys, I think that's a great spot to end the video on. So we took basically a sample from Google and copy pasted it into AL and did a tiny bit of plumbing around it, and it works great inside inside Business Central. So a lean, fast way to draw some charts if you need it. I think I'm going to use this for several things. It's pretty cool. Anyway, that's it. Until next time, have a wonderful day.